Was the U.S. presidential debate a game changer? For the first time, Kamala Harris and Donald Trump faced off on stage in what might be their only debate before November's vote. Was there a clear winner? And did it sway those crucial, undecided voters? I'm Andrea Sankey, and today's Newsmaker is the U.S. presidential debate. After the Republican and Democratic national conventions rallied spectacularly around their respective candidates, on Tuesday night it was just Donald Trump and Kamala Harris facing off on stage. The two sparred over policy as well as their past performance. Now, even though most political pundits have said it was Kamala Harris for the win, it's not clear if she swayed those crucial undecided voters, with polls still neck and neck. More on that in a moment, but first, a look at some key moments from their debate.
If Donald Trump were president, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv right now.
She is Biden. You know, she's trying to get away from Biden.
People start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom.
People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go.
It was the first time the presidential candidates had met. As predicted, they did not get on.
Why don't you tell the 800,000 Polish Americans right here in Pennsylvania how quickly you would give up for the sake of favor and what you think is a friendship with what is known to be a dictator who would eat you for lunch.
The moderators stepped in to correct Donald Trump on more than one occasion.
They have abortion in the 9th month. They even have, and you can look at the governor of West Virginia, the previous governor of West Virginia, not the current governor, who's doing an excellent job, but the governor before, he said the baby will be born and we will decide what to do with the baby. In other words, we'll execute the baby.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born.
Afterwards, unsurprisingly, Democrats said Kamala Harris won.
She spoke to those Americans who may not know her, especially moderates and undecided voters. I think she connected with them directly.
As you'd expect, Republicans took a different view.
Would you accept that she got under his skin to some extent?
Well, I think they both got, under each other's skin at times. There's no doubt about the fact that, Donald Trump created for some uncomfortable moments for Kamala Harris as well.
The stakes for this debate couldn't be higher. Current President Joe Biden looked every one of his 81 years when he debated Trump in June. It was a disastrous night for him. 90 minutes was all it took to all but end a political career spanning more than 50 years.
I've decided the best way forward is to pass the torch to a new generation.
The Democrats wasted little time confirming Harris as his replacement. Biden's experience in June underscored just how consequential the presidential debate can be.
There's no other event in the campaign, speeches, press conferences, the conventions, that will gather anywhere near this number, this audience of tens of millions. Super Bowl, approaching Super Bowl-like ratings.
Tuesday's debate was held in Pennsylvania, the most populous swing state in the country, and the candidates will have to work for votes here.
Both candidates need to understand that it's about the people and not about themselves.
It's always just blah, 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 and nothing ever gets done, either party. So it's a real hard decision.
Pretty much indifferent. It doesn't even really matter too much to me, because I don't believe that my one little vote counts too much.
His vote might matter in a tight race with the polls neck and neck.
If Americans did not like the Biden policies, then she would not have been able to close the gap. The only real big difference, and I think Republicans are right about this, the only real difference that we've seen in the last 6 weeks is that there's a different messenger, but the message or a lot of the policy points, a lot of them are the same. And as a result of the changing the messenger, we've seen it go from, the Democrats go from being 3 to 5 points behind to tied or ahead in the national polls, and then for the 6 or 7 swing states.
But the only poll that matters is on the 5th of November.
Well, joining me now to talk further about whether that debate could sway those undecided swing state voters, and if that even matters, is the man who predicted the result of every presidential election for the last 4 decades, Allan Lichtman. He is, of course, an author and distinguished professor of history at American University, as well as the host of his own live show every Tuesday and Thursday at Allan Lichtman on YouTube. He joins me now from Bethesda, Maryland. Thanks so much for being with us, Professor. You know,
Yes, let me say it's at 9 p.m. Eastern U.S.
Okay, got the plug. All right, you know, more than a few analysts had said that this debate would be a game changer if it went well for one candidate or the other. Yet you cast your prediction over a week ago saying Kamala Harris will win. So why is or was this debate way less crucial than so many people seem to think?
First of all, I deliberately issued my prediction before the debate to drive home the point of the keys to the White House, which, as you said, has been right since I predicted Ronald Reagan's reelection in April 1982 during the worst recession to date since the Great Depression, when his approval ratings were down in the dumps. The keys look at the structure of how presidential elections really work. That is votes up or down on governance, not on debates or speeches or ads. Now, that said, while I've already locked in my prediction, I thought that there was a clear, decisive winner in the debate, which has nothing to do with my prediction, Kamala Harris. Not because she was so great. She was good, maybe very good. Trump was awful. You know, everyone jumped on how awful Joe Biden was in the debate, but 33% thought he won the debate. Only 37%, according to the same CNN poll, thought Donald Trump won this debate. He did about as bad in terms of the responses to the poll as Joe Biden did. He was incoherent. He was rambling. He lied. He relied on crazy conspiracy theories, racist ones, like immigrants eating your dogs and your cats.
Yeah, we saw that one. But I'll tell you what, I mean, you mentioned Joe Biden's debate performance. Would you have dared to predict the election outcome if Joe Biden were still, or if this, let me say, if it were before the Biden-Trump debate? Would you have made that prediction, and would you have regretted it? Because Biden technically met all the positive keys, or at least one on that measurement. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Look, I did not make a call.
No, I know you didn't. I know you didn't, but he also would have met those same criteria of the 13 keys that you have.
False.
Really?
False. Yes, you never know what is going to happen. Would RFK Jr. have fizzled out if Harris hadn't come on? Who knows? Would there have been more social unrest? Those are two of my keys. If Joe Biden was out front, not Harris, who knows?
Okay, I guess my point was the game. Okay, the debate was a game changer for Biden, though. Go ahead.
I did not make a call, and I do not deal in hypotheticals because you never know what's going to happen, and the devil is in the details. I also warned before, when they're trying to push Biden out and shamelessly trashing their sitting president in public, that it would be a disaster if they pushed Biden out and had a big party brawl and lost both my incumbency and contest key. And no White House party has ever won re-election when losing both of those keys since 1900. But apparently the Democrats listened, or at least got smart, and united behind Harris, salvaging the contest key, which meant that only one key was lost, and two other keys may have been salvaged, the social unrest and third-party key, by the candidacy of Harris. That's why I deal with realities, not speculate about hypotheticals.
I'll tell you what. Yeah, and I should encourage our viewers actually to look up the keys that you are measuring your prediction by. Very important. We didn't have time to explain them. We were just speaking about the debate in our run-up package. But still, you know, some people talk about there's still a potential October surprise. Something could still go terribly wrong. Kamala Harris could have a Hillary Clinton moment whereby, you know, a bombshell is dropped like James Comey did with the emails, you know, before the last, or the two elections before. You don't see that?
The biggest myth in American political history is the October surprise. As you know, I've been predicting elections for 40 years. Retrospectively, my model goes back to 1860. There are no October surprises. My predictions have all been made before the so-called October surprise, and I've stuck with them. I stuck with my prediction of a Trump win, for example, after the release of the Access Hollywood tape when he bragged about grabbing women by their private parts, and so many pundits were writing him off. And the reason is, unlike the ephemeral polls, the keys tap into the structure of how elections really work, which is that it's governance, not campaigning, that counts. And the keys are the North Star of prediction. They don't change.
So why are these undecided voters still undecided?
You cannot predict elections by trying to parse out the preferences of individual voters. That is a recipe for disaster. It's led pundits down to the primrose path of predicting a Clinton win in 2016, 99% by the eminent professors at the Princeton Consortium, 70 to 80% by Nate Silver. It led pundits Obama after his disastrous debate with Mitt Romney in October. Where the keys differ is that they look at simple integral parameters that define the electorate as a whole. Let me give you an analogy. You have your cup of tea. You pour sugar in your tea. You learn nothing by trying to follow the individual molecules, but you can learn a lot from simple integral parameters like sweetness and density.
Okay. Allan Lichtman, Professor Lichtman, we're going to have to leave it there. I'd really like to thank you so much for being with us on this segment of the Newsmakers. Greatly appreciate it. Well, let's speak now to two people who do think the debate matters. And joining me from Florida is Republican strategist and Trump White House and campaign surrogate for the 2020 election, Ford O'Connell. And from Washington, Democratic strategist and former Biden appointee, J LaGroon. Thanks all so much for being with me. Ford, I'll start with you. We heard Allan Lichtman say, why the debate actually doesn't matter, that the other, 13 keys or factors have already decided this election. Do you think that's true because he's predicted Kamala Harris will take the win? Or was this debate a swaying factor?
Well, I think despite the disgraceful 3-on-1 debate format, Donald Trump provided a plan of action on bringing down the price of groceries and securing the border, while Kamala Harris basically lied with impunity about everything from fracking to the Charlottesville lie. She says she has all these ideas to fix America, but unfortunately, she's been in office for 3.5 years and has done none of this. So that's the problem. And where I disagree with Professor Lichtman is very simple. There's a built-in advantage on the economy for Donald Trump because he's a previous incumbent. He talks about his model going all the way back to the 1900s. The problem is that this is the first time in a very long time that a former president is actually running again. Very interesting. Okay. Victor, do you think this debate... Go ahead.
No, I mean, first of all, it absolutely matters. And it matters well beyond the style points. What really matters is that America had an opportunity to see both candidates face to face. They got to hear Donald Trump and see who he really is. He, again, has a difficult time staying on task, staying on topic, being clear and concise with his answers. And at the same time, you saw the VP and VP Harris poised, prepared, ready to give the American people clear, concise understanding of who she is, what she represents, and what she stood for, not just in the past, but what she'll stand for in the future. So I think she gave Donald Trump everything he could handle. He certainly showed that he unraveled throughout the debate last night. And I think he is the biggest loser coming out of this.
Okay, Ford, I'll let you respond. I mean, that's what most Kamala Harris supporters are actually saying about this debate. Again, you think it's not true, but what were the particular moments where you really feel you saw Donald Trump kind of take her down? And in a way that could, sway those undecided voters that really count so much in those swing states?
The first 15 minutes when he was talking about inflation, the first question of the debate was, are you better off today than you were 4 years ago? And Kamala Harris couldn't answer that question because on just about every metric, particularly when it comes to the economy, they are not better off. And his best part after that was the closing debate, where essentially he said she has all these ideas. She's the incumbent. She's been in office for 3.5 years, and she has done none of this. Where I'd push back on Victor is the following. When you look at the New York Times Siena poll, 28% of Americans do not know who Kamala Harris is. And essentially, she provided a fact-free debate performance, and the American public still doesn't know where she stands on everything from fracking to price controls in the economy.
Okay, Ford, let me ask you this. Was there a moment, if you can just be honest, where you maybe wish Trump hadn't done or said what he said in this debate? I mean, let's be honest, a lot of people are pointing to the fact that what many said was just an unconfirmed social media post, he says was proof that immigrants were eating people's pets in the state of Ohio. Did that play out well?
Well, let me say this about the border. That's the #2 thing out there, okay? And whether it's Ohio or Aurora, Colorado, you're talking about illegal immigration, which is a #2 issue, and you're talking about crime and safety. Regardless of the facts of the story, the bottom line is that this is a problem across the country. And when you look at the 6 to 7 battleground states, they're going to decide this election. They are very, very concerned about illegal immigration and crime and safety. Okay,
Victor, I mean, was that perhaps the low point, what I mentioned about, I think we actually have a picture of one of the posts he was referring to. But
Right.
go ahead.
It was one of many low points. And here's really where I think Donald Trump demonstrated his inability to really be a credible legislator, politician, leader within this elective cycle. Donald Trump rambles on about people eating dogs and cats, obviously not true. But not only that, what the people were asking for from him, they really couldn't get. Donald Trump, what is your policy? What will you stand for? What will you believe in? Meanwhile, he's talking about, we can abort babies after 9 months. Also doesn't make any sense, but not true. He talked about the economy in a way in which he demonstrated he wasn't quite clear on what the economy actually does and responds to. He talked about the tax benefits that really didn't align with what most Americans are looking for. So time and time again, he had opportunities where I thought he could take advantage of really demonstrating he was ready to come, be prepared, be serious, talk about a plan, and only to say in his own words, well, I'm not in office right now. I don't really have a plan. And I think that really demonstrates his inability to demonstrate he is serious about this work, serious about being a leader, and also would be an amazing NATO partner, which is what our international allies are calling.
Okay, Ford, I mean...
Wait a minute, hold the phone here. Here's the problem that Victor has on this, and so does Kamala Harris. Donald Trump has a record. When he was in office, inflation was 1.4%. The problem today is that prices are up 20%. Now, if I'd been Donald Trump, the one thing I would have done during this debate, every single time that Harris, Muir, and Davis tried to lay a trap, is all I would have just said is Kamala Harris is a phony. She's more of the same, and I'll make America more affordable again, and I'll make America safer again. That would have been the one criticism I would have had of Donald Trump.
Okay, but Ford, I mean, were they laying a trap when they had to correct him? I mean, come on. He's saying that, you can have an abortion after a child is born, and also saying, again, that, these people are eating people's pets. And then we saw actually the picture there. It may have been an immigrant carrying a duck, actually, which, let's be fair, how many Americans go duck or pheasant hunting? That would have been completely acceptable. I mean, RFK, who's now a Trump endorser, says he hunts bears gladly to eat wild game at home.
Most disgraceful moderation of a presidential debate in modern American history. Let me tell you something. Kamala Harris lied throughout that debate. One of the biggest lies she said is the economy that she and Biden inherited was the worst since the Great Depression. Even CNN fact-checked that. Bottom line is these moderators inserted themselves 5 times in this debate, and not once when Kamala Harris lied, from everything from IVF to Charlottesville, which has also been debunked by just about everybody. So the lies were going everywhere. Unfortunately, the interjections were only on one side, and that's why it was such a disgraceful moderation by Muir and Davis.
Fair enough. Victor, I mean...
Let's be clear about this. The moderators, time and time again, remind Donald Trump about the rules. He, time and time again, chose not to follow them. The rules he agreed to. So let's not make this some ambush that didn't happen. He agreed to the rules early on. He kept talking over VP Harris. He continued to have they turn his mic off. They would turn it back on because he was talking in the middle. He was the one that was incoherent. He was the one that could not follow the basic rules that he agreed to. And again, demonstrating he does not have the acumen to be president if he cannot follow basic rules that he agreed to. And secondly, Charlottesville was very clear. Donald Trump said and admitted there were good people on both sides. His words, not mine. Again,
I'm sorry.
Okay, I'll tell you what, guys. We're ticking. The clock is ticking against us, and I really do want to talk about some of the issues that might be more relevant to the audience watching us. The war in Gaza. They talked about it. I have to say, Trump was not quite as clear on what he thinks should happen. Kamala Harris did say the war must end, but then he says, well, she's anti-Israel, but he also didn't speak about his very close relationship with Benjamin Netanyahu, and she didn't play that up either. I mean, let me start with Ford. Do you think it's good that Trump was a bit more quiet on his position on Israel?
Well, if you look at our polling, he's actually leading her by almost double digits on foreign policy. And when it comes to the Israel-Hamas war, look, both sides want it to end. The problem is within the Democratic Party right now, they can't really stake out a position. They just play both sides because there's a rise of anti-Semitism within the Democratic Party. And that's something that Kamala Harris was trying to run away from on that debate stage last night.
Okay, go ahead, Victor.
That's clearly not true. So let's talk about it from this perspective. When Donald Trump was asked a very clear question, would you support the Ukraine in winning this war and ending the war? He said he wants to strike a deal. He said he wants to strike a deal with Russia. That's what he said. When he was asked about Israel, he could not come to a concise point and say, I feel this, I believe that, I would do this. What he said instead was talking about how he would make a deal. I'd make a deal this, I'd make a deal here. This isn't TV. This isn't one of Donald Trump's shows. This is the American people talking about a position that we would have with our international allies. And I think this is where his biggest failure was. He could not say that he would stand up to Putin. He could not say that he would make sure that Benjamin Netanyahu would be a leader in the ceasefire agreement. So Donald Trump was the one who failed to make sure that he had a clear clear answer to the question.
Okay.
Here's the problem, Victor. Here's the problem, Victor, on everything you just said. When Donald Trump was president, Russia did not invade Ukraine. You did not have a situation between Israel and Hamas. You do under the Harris-Biden administration. They got us into this situation because of the weak Afghan pullout that essentially everyone took advantage of. And you want to know who was dodging it? Was Kamala Harris on the Afghan withdrawal. She was trying to blame President Biden for its chaos.
Okay. Go ahead quickly, Victor.
Quickly. I'll just say this. Donald Trump made an agreement with the Taliban and left office and left that mess in the hands of the new Biden administration to have to deal with. So when he made that agreement, the U.S. had to pull out.
Okay, last few minutes forward, we're going to have to ask this going forward. Will there be a second debate? Kamala Harris has said she wants one. Some people on the Democratic side say that's a mistake, that she should quit while she's ahead. But what do you think?
Andrea, 2 points to that. The first of the is that you can't trust anything the Harris campaign says. They say they want to debate. They don't want to debate. They haven't done any interviews. They say they're going to do interviews. Here's the deal. Donald Trump has already agreed to an NBC debate on the 25th of September. Kamala Harris hasn't.
Victor, is that 25th debate going to happen then?
I think the debate's going to happen. I also don't feel like she has to do another debate with Donald Trump. I think what American people needed to see, they saw. What Donald Trump had a chance to answer to, he couldn't answer. And what he demonstrated was that he unraveled before everyone's eyes. He talked and rambled on. She really does have the leadership and the position right now to set the terms, to have another debate if she chooses, or to just speak clearly to the American people.
Okay, I'll tell you what, I've been given an extra few minutes. So, Victor, let me stick with you. So sorry. Well, we saw, I mean, if we can trust, what the analysts are saying now, if this is a win for Kamala Harris, it didn't just end with the debates. After that, she got some pretty serious celebrity endorsements, Taylor Swift mainly. Taylor Swift is quite influential, especially with the younger generation. Does that matter? Is that a real morale boost for her and for the campaign itself going forward?
I think historically, we haven't seen that popular, famous people have made a significant push in the meter as it pertains to voter turnout. However, this is different. You're talking about the biggest pop star in the world, arguably. You're also talking about someone who has a fandom that goes beyond just one region or another and one genre or another. So this might actually be a significant boost with some young voters. I wouldn't say that this is the deal breaker. This is going to push her over the edge. I think it's a way too early to say that.
Ford, I imagine you agree there.
Look, I'm a big fan of Taylor Swift, but this is going to be a replay of 2016 and 2020 where the presidential election was decided by between 40,000 and 70,000 votes. That's just how tight we are, and everyone's fighting for inches on the electoral map. Okay, and quickly what Professor Lichtman Ford said about, there's no such thing as an October surprise. You feel the same? Well, Professor Lichtman has got a lot of kudos going in his favor. Here's the thing. Professor Lichtman's never dealt with an election where they switched out the candidates with 100 days to go. So I think all bets are off the table.
Victor, final thoughts, last 30 seconds.
I'll say this about an October surprise. If VP Harris does not make any significant changes, mistakes, slips that gives Donald Trump a chance and an opportunity to get an edge in wise, I think right now she's going to continue to lead him within a small margin. And I think that margin might grow just a little bit, but it's going to be a tight race. And right now, she's got to fight like she's fighting from behind.
Okay. That will have to be the final word. Victor, thank you so much, both of my panelists, really, for being with us on this edition of the Newsmakers. Great to have you. And our viewers, of course, for being with us as well. Remember, you can follow us on X, and do be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'm Andrea Sankey. We'll see you next time.